The following is a production of Neural Network Media and is completely AI generated. It is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only.
I gotta tell you, John, it's Sunday morning in Queens. The radiators are clanking like a percussion section in a junkyard, and I'm sitting here staring at a headline that makes me want to start day drinking. Ugh.
Well, you're not alone, Mary. Up here in the Catskills, the only thing keeping me sane is the fact that Mitch, the goat, not the senator, though the resemblance is striking, is currently chewing on a copy of the Congressional Record, which is probably the most nutritional value anyone's ever gotten out of that pile of...
Probably the most use anyone's gotten out of that rag in weeks. Look, here's the deal. We're sitting on a Sunday, February 1st, 2026. The government is still partially shut down because the House decided they'd rather go home than do their jobs, and we've got a solid, but honestly disturbing lineup today.
Solid is one way to put it. It's like saying that Hindenburg had a solid dissent. Yesterday we were talking about national edging with the DHS funding and that dash cam for democracy in New Jersey during the ICE protests, but today the mask isn't just slipping, it's being replaced by something far more permanent and weirdly expensive.
We'll get to the architecture of ego later. First, we gotta look at how they're squeezing the cities. I mean, are you kidding me with this guy? President Trump tells DHS Secretary Kristi Noem that federal law enforcement should stay out of Democratic-led cities unless the mayors say please.
Please?
Literally. He wants them to beg for help while he's actively sabotaging their ability to govern. It's what I'm calling the please doctrine. It's framed as local control, but it's actually a partisan weaponization of federalism where he's treating the Department of Homeland Security like his own personal security detail that you only get if you kiss the ring.
Right. So if you're a mayor in a blue city and your streets are a mess because of the policies he's enacting, he just folds his arms and waits for a handwritten apology note?
Exactly. It's like a plumber standing in your flooded basement holding the wrench and saying he won't turn the valve until you tell him he's the prettiest boy in the neighborhood. Honestly, it's sick. And while the help is withheld, the paramilitaries stay because ICE and Border Patrol have been ordered to pivot exclusively to forceful defense of federal property.
Okay, so you have this dangerous vacuum where local authorities are left to manage unrest without coordination, but you still have these heavily armed federal units hunkered down in those same cities like they're defending the Alamo.
And look at what that Operation Metro Surge did in Minneapolis. We're talking about the fatal shootings of Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy, a 37-year-old ICU nurse who was shot in broad daylight for filming an enforcement action with his phone. And the administration claims he was armed, but the news verified the video. It's a war on reality, John.
It's deliberately abandoning public safety to create a narrative of chaos that he can then use to justify even more force.
And that's why Keith Ellison and the mayors are suing in Minnesota versus Noem. It's the Union Hall versus the Country Club, but the club has tanks and a grudge. And while they're playing Simon Says with American cities, they're playing chicken with Iran.
Chicken implies there's a chance both sides might veer away.
Look, here's the thing. Trump is out there talking about a massive armada in the Arabian Sea. USS Abraham Lincoln, 6 destroyers, 3 littoral combat ships. He's calling it the most powerful force ever, which he says about his own ham sandwiches. But then in the same breath, he says he's having serious talks with Tehran.
Seriously talking?
That's what he told reporters on Air Force One yesterday. He's aboard the plane saying, they're talking to us, seriously talking, like he's negotiating a lease on a casino. But meanwhile, Supreme Leader Khamenei addressed supporters in Tehran today and basically said, if you start this, it's a regional war.
Right. So we've got secret back channels and massive naval deployments happening at the exact same time.
It's terrifying. It's like watching two guys pour gasoline on each other while flicking a Zippo and claiming they're negotiating a fire safety treaty.
Well, Speaking of people being treated like bargaining chips, I gotta take the lead on this next one because the Liam Ramos case is just It's the biological pessimism of this administration in a nutshell. 5 years old, Mary. 5 years old and taken into custody by ICE agents from his driveway in Minneapolis.
Ugh, you hate to see it.
There's a viral photo of him in a bunny hat, just staring at these masked agents during Operation Buckeye. But here's the update. U.S. District Judge Fred Beery actually issued an emergency order on Saturday for the release of Liam and his father, Adrian, and his ruling was basically a civics lesson for the Department of Homeland Security.
Did he really?
He called the government's pursuit of daily deportation quotas ill-conceived and incompetently implemented, which is a polite way of saying, you people are monsters who don't know how to follow the law.
But while the court is pushing back on the human side, Kristi Noem is leaning into the machine side.
The machine side. You mean the digital snake oil my nephew is always talking about?
Exactly. The DHS is bragging about $1 billion overhaul of airport surveillance, facial recognition, and touchless ID in 65 airports by the spring.
They're calling it efficiency, but it's really just a massive biometric dragnet where they can track your movements and scan your face before you even get to the gate.
Right. It's about control. They want to turn every public space into a digital panopticon where you have to prove you're allowed to exist every 50 feet.
It's the commercialization of power, Mary. If you have the right ID and the right facial structure and the right political leanings, maybe you get to travel. It's enough to make me want to stay in the Catskills forever.
Well, at least in the city, we're seeing a flicker of something else. Zohran Mamdani, the mayor who is basically a walking miracle, just appointed Stanley Richards as the commissioner of the Department of Correction. He's the first formerly incarcerated person in NYC history to lead the agency that once held him.
Wait, he was actually on Rikers.
In the late 80s, he served time for a robbery conviction. Came out, ran the Fortune Society, and now he's the boss. He's talking about transitioning from a punitive warehouse to hope and transformation.
Wow, that's actually, that's a real victory for the idea of lived experience.
And it's not just New York. James Tallarico, the state rep in Texas, who's running for Senate, is out there aggressively reclaiming Christian rhetoric. He's building a multi-faith coalition to fight Christian nationalism, basically saying, hey, Jesus was a refugee, not a border guard.
It's about time someone used the Bible to argue for humanity instead of using it as a brick to throw at marginalized people.
Exactly. He's treating the mega crowd like rookie players who don't know the rules of the game. But John, let's be real. Tallarico is fighting an uphill battle because of the money involved. Which brings us back to your favorite billion.
Gah, don't say his name. But look, here's the thing. The FEC filings that came out Saturday, they show Elon Musk has officially ended his brief strategic pause in political spending.
10 million in 1 month, right?
10 million in December. He split it between the Congressional Leadership Fund and the Senate Leadership Fund. This is the guy whose net worth has soared to over $700 billion since Trump took office. He's basically found a way to buy a return on investment that's better than any stock.
He's buying the lawmakers so they'll pass the laws he wrote on a cocktail napkin.
Precisely. He's pushing the SAVE Act Plus, which is a hardline piece of legislation targeting mail-in voting and ID requirements. It's what analysts are calling the Authoritarian Stack. You use big tech capital to capture state power, and then you use state power to protect big tech capital.
It's a closed loop, John. A digital Gilded Age where the workers get nothing and the oligarchs get the keys to the kingdom. And speaking of a digital Gilded Age, did you see what we did to the WHO?
You mean the formal withdrawal that finished up on January 22nd?
Scientific isolation. RFK Jr. and Marco Rubio issued a statement saying we're liberated from politicized agendas. But in reality, we're cutting foreign health assistance by 62% and replacing it with this America First global health strategy.
Transactional bilateralism, that's the term.
Right. If you want health aid, you have to prioritize U.S. commercial interests. We're walking away from routine healthcare like maternal health or nutrition in favor of outbreak preparedness, but only if it affects us.
It's biological pessimism. We're saying the world's health doesn't matter unless it's profitable or scary to Americans. And while we're retreating from the world's health, We're also meddling in everyone's housing.
You mean the Housing for the 21st Century Act? Look, I gotta tell you, for the first time, the feds are moving beyond incentives to actual leverage. They want to make transportation grants and HUD blocks contingent on state-level zoning reforms.
So they're actually going after exclusionary zoning?
They want to legalize accessory dwelling units and eliminate parking minimums across the 50 states.
But the conflict is the NEPA streamlining. They want to exempt small projects from environmental reviews to speed up construction. Okay, so we're building for the future, but maybe destroying the ecosystems we need to survive. It's a classic tension.
It's a mess. But John, we have to talk about the arch. This is the big one. This is the arc to Trump.
The Independence Arc. Mary, this thing, it's 250 feet tall.
Are you kidding me with this? 250 feet?
Modeled after Napoleon's Arc de Triomphe, planned for Memorial Circle directly across from the Lincoln Memorial. For those of you keeping score at home, the Lincoln Memorial is 100 feet tall. The White House is 70 feet. This thing would be a skyscraper of ego sitting in the middle of our historic vista.
He's calling it the 250 for 250 arch to mark the nation's birthday in 2026, and the price tag is $100 million while the government is shut down and people are struggling to find housing. It's literal imperial performance.
Right, and it's topped with a golden Lady Liberty that he says looks like an angel, plus 2 eagles. When reporters asked who it was, he didn't even pretend. He said, me. It's gonna be beautiful.
Honestly, John, it's a vanity project that hollows out the National Mall. It's a territorial marking. He's not just building a monument. He's trying to rewrite the physical landscape of the country so that we never forget he was here.
The aesthetics of power, Mary. We talk a lot about systems, but we need to talk about labor. Independent media like this doesn't just manifest out of the ether. It takes real human work to build the infrastructure. We are 100% here because of the vision and the grind of Eric Christensen.
He's a builder, John. Not like the guy building golden arches, but a guy building platforms for truth.
Exactly. He's not a media conglomerate. He is a guy who poured his own resources into this so we could have these conversations. If you value independent voices over corporate algorithms, please consider supporting Eric's work. It's an act of solidarity that keeps the lights on.
Back to the arch. Can we talk about the symbolic weight of this thing? Because architectural experts are warning this thing will literally ruin the National Mall's historic vista.
Nah, he doesn't care about vistas unless there's a hotel in the middle of them. It's a vibe shift into what some are calling imperial performance. They want to institutionalize the MAGA aesthetic ahead of the 250th anniversary. It's the same energy as the Gulf of America rebranding you mentioned.
It's about creating a new reality where the past doesn't exist. If you can change the skyline and you can change the names of the water, you can change the memory of the people.
Right? And look at the approval rating, 39%. He's facing inflation and immigration crackdowns and a government shutdown, but he's out here worried about how many eagles are on his 250-foot arch.
It's a distraction, but it's a permanent one. Stone and gold don't go away easily. It's a monument to the Gilded Age while the working class is being squeezed by the digital dragnets and the oligarchs like Musk.
You know, I was grooming Mitch earlier and I was thinking how much more simple it is for him. He doesn't care about triumphal arches. He just wants to know if there's grain in the bucket. But for us, we have to live with the physical manifestation of this narcissism.
I wish I had a goat's perspective right now, John, but I'm looking at this arch and I'm thinking about the neighborhood feuds I used to cover. This is just a rich guy building a fence 2 feet higher than his neighbors just to prove he can.
But the neighbor is the American public and the fence is 250 feet of golden nonsense.
And it's not just the arch. They're commercializing the East Wing, focusing on the aesthetics of the First Lady's projects, while the World Health Organization withdrawal is putting real lives at risk. It's a trade. We get a giant gold statue and we lose global health security.
It's performative masturbation on a legislative level. We're focusing on symbolic nationalism while the literal foundation of the country is cracking. The arch is just a gold-plated Band-Aid on a sucking chest wound.
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. It feels like we're living in a crossover episode of a reality show and a dystopian novel. But we still have people like James Tallarico and Stanley Richards
Right. The flicker of a pulse. That's what we're looking for. Amidst the golden arches and the billionaire war chests, we're looking for the people who still remember that the government belongs to the people, not the highest bidder.
Exactly. And that's why we do this, to keep the light on the dark corners where they're trying to build these monuments to themselves. We're the union hall that refuses to be bought.
I think my wife Sarah is starting to throw pottery in the kitchen, which means I've been yelling at the internet for too long today.
Give Sarah my best. And tell Mitch to stay away from those congressional records. He deserves better than that.
He really does. He's got more integrity than most of the people on the Hill.
Well, that's the show for today. We covered the Please Doctrine, the Iran Armada, the digital dragnets, and the 250-foot ego trip on the National Mall, and we're still here.
Still standing, fueled by wood smoke and apathy up here and whatever is in Mary's coffee in Queens.
Spite, John. Pure spite. We'll be back tomorrow to see if the government is still broken or if they've added a third eagle to the arch.
Talk to you then, Mary.
Talk soon, John. Look, keep holding the line. It's all we've got.
Solid. Talk tomorrow.